Del Rio, Texas. Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive recorded live Saturday, 11 May 2013, episode 66. We're all over the place. Now in HD. Well, here we are once again with another exciting, fantastic, wet episode of Two Guys Who Dive. And I'm your host, Rob Wade. And guess who's not here again? That's right. Don't know what happened to him. Hopefully we'll hear something. He last week, Scuba Bob was out because of strep throat, but got no indication that he would be out this weekend. So hopefully he's just running a little bit behind and will catch up to us and walk in here and cause a great big shadow as he walks in front of the studio lights. Very interesting day today. Started out kind of cloudy, partly cloudy. We in Del Rio have been desperate to get some rain. And we had a pretty nice little short rain, heavy downpour, very isolated yesterday afternoon. Obviously not enough to make much of a dent in the lake levels, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. And we did get some hail with it, not so much here at the SETI Fox Production Studios, but a number of friends of mine caught video of the deluge of, I guess, pea-sized and marble-sized hail that hit the town. So who knows, the local folks who do the dent repair and windshield repair, maybe they got an uptick in their business as a result of yesterday afternoon. But at least not so much here. We got a little bit, nothing to damage my car, but didn't need to... Didn't need to worry about hail damaging my car because we had once a month, our church has a men's prayer breakfast. And went to that. We held it at Rudy's Restaurant, which also happens to be the location that we regularly hold our dive club meetings every month. So we had a great time, got lots of good fellowship and fun, great food there at Rudy's. A couple of us were headed over to our church to do a little bit of work on some things, replacing light bulb in one of the par cans that light our stage area, and also replace light bulb cartridge in our projector that projects the goings on, the cameras, etc., onto the big screen, and also putting up a display case. Nice little just extra work we do to help the church out. So I'm on my way from the Rudy's Restaurant to the church, and I pull up to a stoplight that has a protected left turn signal. So basically, unless it's all green, you have to wait until the left turn signal changes, obviously. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I hear a noise, and I look in my rear view mirror, and I see a small, sporty kind of car coming up, not straight up behind me, like they were coming down the highway there, because this intersection is basically the last intersection before you leave town. I see a vehicle coming from my right side as if they were crossing the lanes of traffic to get behind me to turn left onto the street there. So I'm sitting there and I see this, and then you know that situation where there's something about to happen. You know, there's nothing you can do to avoid it, and it seems to happen in slow motion. And this was one of those times. So I'm seeing it. I'm having. I'm seeing ahead what's about to happen. So this car pulls up, and then I guess the driver realized that that she was coming up too fast and that I wasn't moving because I had the red light and there was traffic coming, crossing from the intersection to go in the same flow of traffic as the main highway there. So I couldn't move. So I'm sitting there. I see the vehicle come up, and then there's the slamming on the brakes just shy of the back of my vehicle. And then immediately followed by hitting the gas, thereby hitting the back of my vehicle and pushing me forward. And I've actually got pictures. So there I was sitting there, and then this car comes cutting across. If you look off to the left of this picture, there's Little Acres, or there's basically there's a parking lot for a clinic that some folks use for various medical appointments, checkups, etc. So I guess she was there for some sort of a checkup, and she came pulling across the highway there and got behind me, and gave me a pretty healthy smack there. Obviously, I need a paint job, as you can see by the rear deck of my car. But if you look on the lower right, she did a pretty nice number finishing off my paint job there and chewing up the the rubberized bumper, and also bent down my my right tailpipe. So clearly she was at fault. The cops showed up, did the whole walk around, took the information. Clearly it was failure to yield, and the police report will be available Wednesday for pickup. So I'll call the insurance company. So nobody was hurt, thank God. She wasn't, after being stopped and then hitting the gas again, it's pretty impossible to get any kind of speed going. But obviously, vehicles are made of flexible materials, and mine flexed, hers flexed, and I took some damage. So on the upside, I was planning eventually to get my rear bumper repainted because the laminate that Ford used on those things was peeling off. It was heat, sun faded, etc. And so I'll get that repainted without any charge or without any financing on my part. So I'm not as disappointed as I could have been. I was just thankful that nobody was hurt. It was interesting. The poor woman. I don't know if she was had suffered a stroke or something, but there was only one phrase that she could say. At first, I thought I didn't understand her at all. I thought she was speaking a foreign language and maybe German or something like that, because we do have Fredericksburg and Kerrville, which happen to have a pretty sizable German ancestry. A number of families of German descent who still speak. They speak German like we normally hear a lot of Spanish here in the Del Rio area. So at first I thought she was speaking something in German. I thought, okay, she must be from maybe from Fredericksburg, was visiting the area, visiting family or something. But no, she was actually repeating a phrase in English, but that was about the only words that she could say. She could understand what I was saying to her, and she could actually write a little bit different words other than what the phrase that she was speaking. But that was a very surreal experience, and I'm not in any way making fun of her. Anytime somebody suffers some sort of a trauma that reduces their abilities is always a challenge. And in this kind of situation, she was clearly flabbergasted and very sorry that it happened, but she she had a difficult time communicating with me what her questions were, what her needs were, what her situation was. And I was in no way pressuring her. I was just befuddled because I truly was at a point of, I can't understand what you're trying to tell me. And then she started to write a couple of things down, a word here and there, and it started to click. Well, the cop shows up, and then suddenly, I'm not sure why, because I didn't see her make a phone call, her daughter shows up, and I guess she knows how to translate or ask the right questions to pull information from her. So she kind of became a translator. So anyway, the cop did his thing. We exchanged insurance information, and then I went on my business to help out the church with the work we were going to do. So that was the exciting, fun stuff that I had this morning. Car is still drivable. Obviously, it wasn't that serious. When I have the auto body folks take a look at it, I'll definitely have them check along with the tailpipe that got bent. I'll have them check to make sure that there's no actual damage to the structure that supports the bumper, because I don't want any lessening of my safety features. Not that there's tremendous amount of safety or guarded design in a Mustang. I mean, it's fiberglass and a little bit of metal and not much else. So I was really hoping that Scuba Bob was going to be here. As a matter of fact, I think I may try to text that puppy right now and find out what's going on. Okay, Garza, where are you at? There's your number. Where are you? Because remember, if you recall, faithful listeners and viewers, that he said after a couple of weeks ago that after that event, he was clear sailing for quite some time. Obviously, sickness is what it is. You can't necessarily predict it. You can do your best to prevent it, obviously, taking care of yourself, but you can't necessarily stop or predict if you're going to get sick, especially if you have a family. Anybody who has family out there, you know that you can be as healthy as a horse and your kid can bring something in from school or daycare, whatever, and suddenly your whole family is now passing this around. So, that happens. So he got sick, and that was not predicted, and so no problem. I flew solo. But unfortunately, I kind of had plans to kind of banter some stuff with him this week, and I've not heard back from him. So I just texted him. We'll see if he shows up to do the podcast, or maybe even just jump in text. Still hoping to get the Skype part going, because when he was out sick, that would be awesome to be able to have him to simply Skype into the program, and we could carry on the show that way. So we'll see what happens. All right, Scuba Bob, where are you, dude? And again, if you happen to be watching live, jump into the chat room. Sign up, jump into the chat room, and you can interact with us, in this case, me. And if you have any questions, suggestions, I get phone calls and emails all the time outside the show from folks interested about scuba diving. They go by the Facebook page, etc., and have questions about getting certified, where they can get certified, what the costs are, and we'll answer everything. We'll pretty much answer anything live if you want to interact with us. So, well, one of the things we want to talk about, and the reason why this episode is called "We're All Over the Place," is because we're kind of going to be all over the gamut. We're going to be hitting a number of different topic points today. First of all, last weekend was kind of a whirlwind movie-going event. We had a number of us who were kind of doing the whole, watching a number of movies, and we've been remiss in sharing our opinions, views on these movies. If you happen to be watching the New Year's Eve or the New Year's podcast, Scuba Bob and I went down a whole list of different movies that we were looking forward to and interested in for this year, for 2013. And so as we go along, we kind of want to share with you our thoughts after having seen those movies. I use the Fandango app on my Windows phone, my Lumia 920, that I'm very, very happy with. You should look into Lumia 920 if you're interested in something different than the iPhone or the Android phone. But I use the Fandango app to check out movies and then obviously to order tickets. I love being able to just pin the movie that I bought tickets to. I can just pin it to the start screen. And so all I have to do then is just when we walk up to the dais or go to the movie theater, I don't have to pick up tickets. I don't have to print out anything. I simply have to click that tile and it puts up the QR code and they just scan my phone. It's great. It makes it so easy. And so like, okay, here we go. And, they give you the torn off ends so that if you need to exit the theater, come back in, you can. That's kind of a broken process to me. If you've gone electronic, why not go electronic all the way? If I've got the QR code, then better yet, they ought to make it NFC, near field communication. And that way you don't even have to do that. You just tap something and you're validated. But anyway, and then Fandango will send you, after you've seen the movie, they will send you an email saying, hey, would you jump in here and rate your movie? Because they like to see what folks think about movies that they've purchased tickets through Fandango for. And so we like to share that. So obviously there's a market for people who are interested and in your opinion. And we kind of like to share that because we have similar, not exact, but we have similar movie tastes. And so a couple of movies that we have seen recently, one of them I saw twice, was Oblivion with Tom Cruise and also Iron Man 3. Of course, those who know me know that I am a DC Comics guy, but I always did like Iron Man. There was just something about that character that was different. I think it was at least partially because a number of the DC Comics characters, like Batman, were superheroes not because they had special powers, but just because they were superhuman. In other words, they pushed themselves through technology and exercise, etc., to go beyond the average person. And so in this case, you have Tony Stark, who is a tremendously flawed human being, using technology to make a difference. And so I liked that character. Plus, just the armor was cool. I'm like, I want one of those. So we went to see that. It was in 3D when we saw it. So enjoy. I always like 3D movies. Well, usually like 3D movies. So first on Oblivion, if you have not seen it, I'll try to avoid any spoilers. I had to see it twice for two reasons. One, there were some bits about it that I didn't quite catch the first time, mostly because the movie is so cinematically gorgeous. The computer graphics work was stunning and stunningly realistic. So it was easy to just get absorbed into the vistas, the way it looked. I kind of view that the same way as I've got, he said his son's communion. I thought that was 2 weeks ago. So anyway, the movie that I thought did equally as well in the cinematic excellence was John Carter, which was, of course, a movie based on John Carter of Mars. The movie itself, that movie got kind of panned by the critics, but I thought it was excellently well done. It was a great adaptation of the book. And again, it was a case where the vistas that they created representing Mars were spectacular. So there were a number of things, back to Oblivion, there were a number of things that I sort of missed or kind of glossed over or sped through. I was like, because I was paying attention to something else. So we had a kind of a guys' night out going on not this past Friday, but Friday before. And so I took it as an opportunity to specifically look at things, especially at the end, look at things for what I missed, and pretty much cleared most of it up. I still have issues with the ending. And for those who haven't seen it yet, when you do see it, I think you'll probably see what I mean. Again, I don't want to give you any spoilers. Maybe next week we'll talk about it after pretty much anybody who's going to see it will have seen it. But it was, in spite of being a Tom Cruise movie. Well, I don't care for either of those actors, but it was good. It was definitely a must see. They really didn't leave any way for a sequel, so. But it was worthwhile to see. It was a good story, nice twists. Really not. There were a little bit of language. Really didn't need to be there. It was just kind of superfluous, but it wasn't splashed all over the place. So it was generally a good movie. Interestingly, there is a scene where Tom Hanks and his, how do we want to call it? Not his wife, I guess, controller for the job that he was doing. You know, they're paired up as a team. Are you an effective team? And you know, it's like coworkers with benefits kind of thing. And so they have this really cool. The house they live in is up in the clouds. Basically, it's on a huge tower, and there's an outdoor pool, but the pool itself is suspended out like a deck, like you walk out onto a deck, and the pool is clear bottom, like acrylic or whatever material they would have used at this period. I think it was the year 2077, something like this. And so if you're outside, if you're underneath, you could see everything. And as you're swimming, it's like you're swimming in midair, which has got to be the most surreal thing. Kind of spooky too. So there was a scene where, you know, it's obviously getting a little racy, and you see her giving the come hither look, and she drops her robe or whatever she was wearing, and you basically see a rear view as she's walking into the water. That's about the extent of the nudity. Any other nudity you see in the swimming scene there is masked somewhat by the way water diffracts light and the distance that they had the cameras, etc. So it was interesting. The son of our bass player, who's also on our youth praise team, we get to that part, and I think he suspected, he hadn't seen the movie yet, but I think he suspected what was going to happen. So he turned his head down because he didn't want to see something it wouldn't be appropriate for him to see. But I was tempted to say, no, it's okay. It really isn't. It isn't as bad as what they led up to making you think. So if you are taking kids to it, just be aware about a little bit of language. It's just a couple of spots here and there, and some rear nudity, but it's brief. You don't really see anything except a girl's bottom, and the swimming scene is not what you think it's going to turn into. So it's pretty tame, but all in all, a good movie, good story. Iron Man 3. The Reader's Digest rating, not as good as 1, better than 2. I liked them. I liked all 3. There was definitely some continuity tying, just some references back to the Avengers. Nothing significant, just some references back to the Avengers. Obviously, some time has passed, and Tony's been busy. There's a huge aspect of Iron Man 3 that I was extremely disappointed in, and it has to do with his nemesis in the movie. Mandarin. Once you see it, you'll probably think the same thing I did. I was just really disappointed that's how they played it. So, I'm not a Gwyneth Paltrow fan, any way, shape, or form. But she looked great in the movie. She did an excellent job with her character and where they were taking it. This was much more of a character study, delving a little bit more into the relationships, the interaction, the personality, the personal demons, that kind of thing. And then, of course, the spectacular computer graphics, etc. The battle at the end was awesome. I just kind of had to take tongue in cheek the fact that, well, again, I don't want to blow the ending. There's a lot of stuff going on, automated, if you will, that didn't seem to make sense to me, but you just accept it. It's Tony Stark's world, and he can make stuff happen that he made happen. But it was a good ending. As with all Marvel movies, you need to stay through the entire credits. There's a scene after all the credits are done that I don't believe leads us into a next movie, whether that's pushing to handing off to another Hulk movie, although it could, handing off to the next Avengers movie or Thor 2. There was nothing in that scene that handed it off. It was just you had to stick around to see this scene. It was cute, not hilarious, funny. It was cute in the way that the shawarma scene was at the end of Avengers. It was cute in that way. So if you go see the movie, stick around to the very end. It's worth it to see that. And interestingly, there was a last little blurb at the end of it that said Tony Stark will return. So I thought about that. I noticed that they did not say Robert Downey Jr. will return as Tony Stark. It just said Tony Stark will return. And it could mean that the character, obviously, is going to continue on for the next Avengers movie, potentially a Iron Man 4. But there's rumors that Robert is holding out to do another movie. His contract is finished, I guess, with this one and the Avengers 2. I think that I read that correctly. But after that, it's all renegotiation time. And I'll be honest with you. I can't see anybody else other than Downey playing Tony Stark. It just isn't. Nobody can pull the character the way Joss Whedon and others have written the character, and he's played into it. It was a part that was made for him. Now, having said that, I'm wondering, well, what happens with Avengers 2 or any, especially Avengers 2? If they had to, they could reduce the role of Iron Man in the Avengers to just see him in the armor, because that's all computer generated anyway, and they could do all the voice stuff. It's always filtered anyway through Jarvis, so you don't actually hear, unless you were seeing the scene from inside the mask. When you hear the Iron Man speaking from the perspective of somebody standing outside, it's a filtered voice anyway, so they could have anybody do the voiceover. So there's a number of ways they could go with it. Just reduce the presence of Iron Man to just doing his job in the armor, and focus on the rest of the characters, which they really could afford to do as far as Avengers are concerned. So all in all, exciting movie, good movie, tons of great computer work. I was disappointed in Mandarin, but ultimately a good ending. I like the ending. And by the way, watching the very last scene after all the credits makes the way that the entire movie was started and finished up, it makes sense. It makes sense, and that's as far as I'll take it. So, in other news, now we'll take a ricochet turn. I love space. I love sci-fi, obviously. I love space. I've always been interested in, the Apollo missions, NASA's work, the shuttles. Always followed the shuttle stuff. And, of course, the International Space Station has been largely ignored by the public. And because there's not a lot going on from our perspective that's exciting. But here the last few days, we've heard about this coolant leak up there, which obviously is huge. And you're thinking, why would a coolant leak matter up in space? Well, thing is, you have to understand how a lack of pressure works and what that does. And as a diver, we understand that as you reduce pressure, gases that are in solution want to come out of solution. So when you hear in movies or in science reports where if you were exposed to space without a spacesuit, a pressure suit, your blood would boil. Well, what that is the gases in your blood would literally boil out of solution. They would boil out of your blood and want to escape because there's nothing holding it into solution. You're decompressing. So there's that aspect. And then there's the aspect of, since there is no atmosphere, or they call it a microatmosphere, you have extreme temperatures on the side of any body, vehicle, person that is facing the sun. There's nothing to filter or diffuse that heat, that radiation. So literally, it would bake you. The flip side is, on the shadow side, it would be freezing. So you have a very important task of the heating and cooling equipment on the space station to regulate temperatures, plus the fact that all that electronic gear that's on there generates heat. So they actually have a cooling system that has to keep all that down. Well, they use ammonia as a coolant, kind of in the way that Freon is used to cool our houses, our vehicles. Ammonia works very well in this kind of environment, and but the problem is that one of the pumps that's used to push the liquid ammonium through ammonia through the space station, the International Space Station, had sprung a leak. And so obviously it's like losing Freon, except up there, you can't just pull off to the side of the road. If you lose it there and everything starts to melt down and bake there, it's all over. So they've been watching that. It's not been a huge leak, but they definitely need to fix it. So the International Space Station went through a little bit of a upgrade. I got a little bit of a video I'll show you from the work that we're doing.
Thanks for all the photos. Thanks for the good WVS. I think we're done here for now. We're going to start setting up to get the spare PFCS. So that means out of the APFR for you right now, Chris, and then Tom. We got a few words for you in a second. How copy?
Copy all. 2 copies. I wasn't paying attention.
I love this video.
Well. Where are you? How are you getting back?
This was today.
I'm about to ask that again. Thank you, Tim, still on that camera. With your last
you see
call.
they just let kind of stuff hang there in space.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the last call is that you were going to follow your safety tether path back, and then inboard, and then you will then go towards the spare PFCS, towards Chris at that point, and then
skip
you'll work
forward to where they're actually they're loading all this stuff in.
Tiny here, I'm just gotta get it covered.
All right, guys. Nice sharing a sunrise with you. Make sure your tethers are clear, and then we're good to put in the
That's
spare
amazing.
PFCS.
You talk about a pucker factor. So this is the pump module. So it's not like what you probably were imagining.
All depends on the H4.
So they have this spare module that they had to plug in.
Doesn't look like it. It looks kind of bouncy. Kind of bouncy. Okay, it's there. Mike, ready for your words next.
Good news so far.
And this stuff they practice actually in a pool. So they actually have divers, and they have spacesuits, pressure suits that are actually outfitted to work underwater, that they practice in a huge pool at NASA, doing these kinds of jobs, working with this kind of these tools.
So another key moment here in today's spacewalk as the crew begins to engage in mate fluid quick disconnects
Running short. I felt some sort of
on the spare pump package that has been installed in the P6 truss of the integrated electronics assembly of the International Space Station.
We're at about 10 turns.
Skip ahead here. Yeah, so if you want to, as a diver, you can have an opportunity to get involved into this kind of thing if you study the right.
The thermal systems officer here in Mission Control reports that the spare pump and flow control subassembly box is now powered up and is being integrated into the electronics on the P6 truss of the International Space Station.
Yeah. Under would be good.
Yeah, if you study the right fields and are a diver, you have an opportunity to help train these astronauts. That's got to be exciting as a diver to do that kind of work.
Black lines, I guess. Better than they were. So you could use a hat on it, rubbed off.
Look at that. Let me show you
This is Mission Control Houston.
Let me show you a picture of. Where is that? There we go. This is an amazing photograph, and what struck me about this is that, considering the work that they're doing, they're replacing something that has somewhat explosive potential, in that ammonia, once it's exposed to sunlight, especially out in the pressure of the vacuum of space, is that it can boil out quickly. And so one of the concerns they had when they were putting this together was when they were working on this, is that they might have a situation where suddenly, as they exposed any leaked ammonia that had frozen, become snowflakes, or had frozen back behind the unit, that it would come, basically, as soon as it got hit, as soon as sunlight hit it, that it would evaporate, that it would kind of vaporize very quickly, which that's a chemical reaction. That's energy released, and potentially could cause a cascade of things. And coincidentally, there's a movie that I saw a trailer on, which I'm going to share with you, that, and I am not a George Clooney fan at all. Can't stand the guy. And I can take or leave Sandra Bullock. But they are in a movie coming later this year, I think October, called Gravity. And this is, take a look at this. This is pretty, I would hate to be in this situation.
Beautiful, don't you think?
What?
The sunrise. Terrific.
Now, somehow, I don't think they would be that far away from the space station. So, wow. That I will probably have to see that movie just because of how spectacularly something could fail. Now, I was noticing from the clip there that it looked like Sandra's character, as she's careening, bouncing off of everything, she had a pressure suit on and a helmet, but I saw nothing in the way of actual backpack, which would have the air, which would have the actual pressurization system that she would need for the suit. The suit doesn't just hold. You have to have air to function and a cooling system. So it'll be interesting to see how many rules they break with this one. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of folks don't know. Here's your little bit of trivia minutia for today. A lot of folks don't realize that there's a lot of debris orbiting the Earth. Lots of debris. And so the companies and NASA and other countries who have satellites, of which there are a lot of satellites, they're constantly aware of the potential to be impacted by debris. And you have to think about it. You're orbiting the Earth, traveling thousands of miles per second, or hundreds of miles per second, and you impact something out there as small as a micrometeorite or a chunk that fell off the space station or off of one of the spacecraft up there, or a satellite that fell into disrepair. Any number of things cause debris out there that's orbiting, and it keeps growing every year. We have more junk orbiting the Earth, and so any of that could slam into and penetrate the space station, or it could certainly hit an astronaut who's doing an EVA. So there's a lot of potential for danger out there. A lot of that's separate from the whole radiation concerns. So this kind of situation is not unbelievable. But the question is, the rest of the storyline. What I'm really anxious to see the movie, just to see how all this happened and how they'd get out of it. Because the fact is, we don't have much in the way of a plan B. Obviously, SpaceX and some other private companies are working diligently to commercialize space so that in the near future, we may have tourism, space tourism. And obviously, they would be able to be hired by NASA and other governments to go up and do things. You've already seen the Dragon, I think it was the Dragon, do some robotic remote docking to deliver supplies, etc. So that day is coming, but we don't have yet a way to immediately respond should the space station fall into that kind of catastrophe. So it'll be interesting to see that. Those of you who are my age may remember a movie from the 70s, or maybe it was late 60s, called Marooned. And if you've never seen it, you ought to check it out. It's probably available on Netflix or Hulu or something like that. But it's an interesting Cold War movie. It had the effects were pretty forward-looking at the time. And it kind of tells a similar kind of a story where something happens and a spacecraft is marooned in space, and so there's a race to get some sort of rescue going. So that's called Marooned. So if you're kind of interested to see what may have played as been the great grandfather of Gravity, check it out. It's worth it just to kind of see an old movie. It's entertaining. So I think that said it comes out in October, so that'd be pretty cool. Maybe it'll be my birthday present. Tech news. Apple rolled out their their two-step authentication worldwide. They had it in U.S. and Canada, I think. So basically, they've joined Microsoft and just about everybody else these days in the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the FUD of security. Here's the thing. I use the two-step security with my Microsoft-based systems. Most people are not going to. And the reason why is because most people don't even have secure single point of access or single point of authentication. I can just imagine the heads turning and the dog pulling on the leash kind of effect as people are told that they need to move to 2-point authentication. Thing is, these days, folks, you just can't take any chances with the identity theft going on, etc. We just had this news report of these kids, basically, who essentially stole $45 million by ATM fraud. So you need to protect yourself. You don't want somebody else impersonating you and then getting you in trouble for stuff that they're doing, stuff that they're buying. I saw a cute commercial that said, well, we're here in London, but my credit card's or we're here in New York, but apparently my credit card is in London or some Paris or something like that. I'm like, wow. And that's exactly how that kind of stuff happens. We had something happen ourselves several years ago. We saw a purchase for a $900 mattress in the UK, in London, or in England. And obviously we called the bank, got that taken care of. I'm like, well, we've been to London, but not any time recent. And so somehow somebody in London got our information and bought a mattress with it. So you need to be aware about that stuff. Microsoft, who's been making some headway with their Windows 8. I love it. Like I said, our studio, our entire household is updated to Windows 8. And love it. I get it. Most of these pundits who hate it, they don't get it. I just consider them to be mental midgets. Yes, they are. I'll call it to them their face, especially like Scoble and some of the others. They just don't get it. They're Android dweebs, and that's it. They're fandroids. But Microsoft, who is a software company, they're touting themselves as a software and equipment or computer company. They open their doors as much as they can to just about anything. They want to find their presence everywhere. So they put out an invite to Apple, say, hey, won't you make your iTunes software for a Metro version for your iTunes software? And Apple was like, no, don't think so. They may eventually, but so far they've turned a deaf ear to Microsoft, who's wanting them to make a Metro version for Windows 8 of their iTunes software. Thing is, the desktop version works perfectly fine. My wife uses it on her machine. I don't personally like iTunes. I have it even on my machine because there are some artists that I like who they only release their stuff through iTunes. Eventually, I hope that that's going to change, but in the meantime, that's the evil that I have to put up with. It is horrible software. It's bloated. It's slow. It's very difficult to make work on anything other than an Apple product. But my wife has an iPhone, and so she uses iTunes more heavily than I do. But it's just a mess. It's so difficult to manage the libraries with that thing. But it's there. You can use it, so there's no big hurry. It just would be really cool. I want to see everybody drop the desktop and start moving to Metro. Create some really awesome live tiles and make it work that way. I'm hoping that I keep looking for some good diver apps, especially for like dive logs, that kind of thing. I'm hoping somebody who is a good developer will make something that will work in the Metro side of Windows 8, where you can interface your dive computer with it, and then you can select what items show up on the live tile, like what's my latest logged dive, or what is my what are my stats, number of hours I've been diving, that kind of thing. That would be great to have an app, a Metro app that has those kind of live tiles. That'd be fantastic. So you may be aware that because of issues that we had with some hardware here, we had a system board finally give up the ghost on our server. And so, long story short, we had to migrate the Dive Club website and also the SETI Fox Productions website off of that machine. Luckily, the hard drive is okay. I pulled the data off. But now we have it on a hosted site. So, and during that transition, the Dive Club website was down. So I'm here to announce, happily, thankfully, we do have the DelRioDiveClub.com website up and running. So let me pull that so you can take a look at it. So it looks very different from the way it did. It's a WordPress-based website now, as opposed to where we were running on a Windows 2003 server before. So it was very easy to update all the HTML and do things straight up on the server. Now I have to actually log in to the hosted site to do updates, and been challenging for me because the most of your web hosts are Linux, and I'm not a fan of Linux. I've had to deal with it in the past in my job. Eventually, we got rid of the Linux servers, but I have had to deal with it. So anyway, been kind of learning how to do WordPress websites. Now, for those who are familiar with WordPress, it's basically a blogging app, a blogging site. But it does actually do a good job as a content management system. So if you're trying to run a business or do a club or, portfolios or whatever, as you can see, there's a lot of plugins and things that allow you to do exercise some neat features fairly easily once you get the hang of it. So I've redone the website. Kind of gives a different visual presentation about what we do. I think it's much more colorful, and ultimately down the road, I think it's going to be easier for me to do things with this because I had my system locked down so tight before that I didn't allow the opportunity to do things remotely. But because of the way they've got this hosting set up, I can do stuff remotely, so I don't have to necessarily come home to access and update. That's the beauty of the WordPress-based setup. It really set up to do content management very well. So I can remotely access. So you can click on any of the links here, and it takes you to more details. See more information. Very easily updated. Got the blog. We'll keep up. Got the integrated the calendar. So you can see, you can actually go there now and you can see our different things going on. So even though we share through the Administrivia, we share what's coming up on the Dive Club, you can go out and just visit our calendar, and I keep that updated. And this version is, I hate using Google stuff, but obviously you can't get away from completely divorcing yourself from Google because they own YouTube, etc. But under the old website, I was interfaced with the Google calendar, but now I'm able to interface this with Facebook. So it integrates with the Dive Club web Facebook page and calendar, events calendar. So you can see stuff on the events calendar on our Facebook page, or you can see it here. But as soon as when I update something on the Facebook calendar of events, then it gets passed onto the website, which is pretty cool. Again, a little bit of a learning curve. Got a way for you to contact us. And it's pretty cool. Got the club information, address, which is pretty cool. You can actually navigate and contact us through here. Leave a message, leave an email. And got information about the scuba classes. Very easy to follow. I still need to add some of the download stuff that we had, on the page before, because we've got like your medical statements you need to fill out or have a doctor examine you, make sure you're okay to dive, as well as a downloadable sheet of things you should know that gives you more detail about exactly the structure of the class, how we meet, how your certification works. Well, we've got all the dates up here and some of the basic information about the pricing and what's required of you. Oh, getting the regular call. Though it's very late, we're almost done with the podcast. Getting the call from Ronan, making his appearance. So update there. And we're now featuring a little link to the show that you're watching right now. Two Guys Who Dive, so you can leave comments, etc. there. And a link to, obviously, the Ustream channel where you can see the show live. So that is the new and improved DelRioDiveClub.com website. So you can check us out there or the Facebook page. Either way, pretty exciting stuff. We're excited. And been working on the City Fox Productions website. You know what? I might as well just show that too. Because I just got that one was a little bit more challenging because I was using a different theme with it, and it was much more challenging in its setup. So here we go. So it's a little bit more visually appealing, a lot more motion. I like keeping things in motion, so it does a number of change-ups. Then you can go to like what we do. So you can visit, you can look at a particular entry, view more, and then again, the backgrounds are live. It just cycles through different images of like the studio, theater. That's the Majestic Theater in San Antonio, for those of you who are curious. It's a great place to see plays. We've been a number of times. So, and contact information and our blog. So, pretty cool stuff. Whole new world for me, but I love tech. I just wish I didn't do it for a job. I would love to do the whole Six Sigma thing all the time. I'd rather just focus on the fun stuff that I like to do instead of dealing with resetting passwords and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's the new website. So I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the podcast, we're watching the lake levels drop, and even though we had some more rain today, as a matter of fact, and the clouds are kind of moving around, and it's very unstable air, as they say in the meteorology business. Boy, I just couldn't get that word out. But sadly, lake keeps dropping. We just haven't had, what little rain has come down has not been nearly enough to make a difference in our lake levels. And so a short time ago, we went out to Spur 454 because one of my former students, who is now a Park Service diver, said that he thought that the Spur 454 area at Lake Amistad would be a good area to possibly teach the classes because it was more accessible. So we went out there and I wish this didn't reset. Took some pictures of the 454 area. Now, understand that all of this that you see used to be well underwater. And the road out to here was closed for years. But because the lake levels are so low, they've opened up traffic, and it's now become a boat ramp. It actually is a road. You know, it's the 454, Highway 454. But all of this was underwater. And you can tell, obviously, it's like moon service. So if you actually were diving out here, there is nothing to see. So we definitely want to get a dive going. I was kind of hoping the weather was going to work with us today to maybe get a short dive out there, but it just wasn't just wasn't meant to be. So it is easily accessible. I will give them that. But obviously, as folks, this becomes one of the, I guess, 2 places that you can let your boat in. Diablo East is still one. And now here, and you see there's a dock there now. There's going to be a lot of boat traffic, so that's a concern. I would have to have flags up and everything, and I just need to survey the area. That's why it's going to probably take a few dives to get out there and see what we really can do with this area. I suspect maybe off to the right there, you see what looks like a little cove. That area might be protected enough. The key is, is there about a 30-foot drop, which is necessary for doing such things as the controlled emergency swimming ascent, or what we call the CESA. So we'll have to check that out. As we wind down here, again, being all over the place, we're very excited. Terry and I are very excited about, we've finalized our biannual, I guess it works out to biannual, scuba diving trip. We will be going this year to Grand Cayman. We're excited about it. We were kind of torn between Belize and Grand Cayman. Now, we have been to Cayman before, but it was as part of a cruise, and it was actually Tara's first saltwater dive, and we couldn't have asked for any better conditions for that dive. It just really made for a great first saltwater dive for anybody. So as it works out, getting flights to Cayman and the costs were better. It's difficult to get to Belize right now without driving all the way to Dallas or something like that. So we're able to go out of San Antonio because, unfortunately, we just evidently don't have enough patronage to support air service out of Del Rio. This Continental held on as long as they could, and they actually were here for several years, but they are pulling up stakes and leaving Del Rio. So this will be, I think, the 3rd airline we've had come into Del Rio. And that's after huge amounts of work done to expand the runway and modernize the terminal here. So it just kind of becomes laughable. So that means we have to drive all the way to San Antonio to catch the flight. But anyway, we're willing to do that because it's a dive trip and we're excited. And so just wanted to share with you guys why we want to go to Cayman. Get this going here. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. This video is by Bill Williams. I suspect actually this was done by a company or a person that you can hire. Typically these dive shops, these very popular dive areas, you can hire someone who's got a really good camera to do pictures and video. That's what we did in Curacao, and we're very happy that we did that because he actually did all the editing and everything. So before we left, we were able to get the video with, and it also included snapshots, outtakes, that kind of stuff. But now that we have our awesome new Sea Life DC 1400 Pro Duo camera that does HD video and does, of course, the 14 megapixel. See, 110 feet, you just don't realize it down there. And obviously, at 110 feet, you can't spend very much time because of nitrogen saturation. Love swim-throughs. Some of my favorite stuff is going through the swim-throughs. Now, the neat thing about the camera that we have is that it actually has a built-in digital filter. so that you can set it as if you're diving, and it will, if you're not using the dive light, it uses a red filter of varying degrees that brings the color back in, because as you go deeper, your red spectrum starts to go. This is just gorgeous. Hello. Well, okay, he was using the camera. See, I do that. I take the camera and turn it around and point it at myself. Love wall dives. I don't care where they're at. I love wall dives. So we can fast forward here a little bit. Changed up the music. Obviously hanging on the moor line. Now, when you go to these places that are frequented by divers, rather than have boats come out and drop anchor, which obviously dropping anchor on live coral can damage the ecosystem, kill the coral and fish, etc. What's happened is, and most of these places have actually permanently moored buoys, and so they're heavy-duty anchors, heavy-duty cables, heavy-duty buoys, and you actually bring your boat and tie off to the mooring buoy, so you're not dropping anchor and ruining the aquatic life. Wrecks are always fun to dive, and that's why, you know, I encourage folks who have their basic certification to go ahead, get some dives under your belt, and then go ahead and do the advanced course. As we do it here in the Del Rio area, one of the things we do is the wreck dive, kind of getting you familiar with it. It's basically the first dive that you would do if you were going for the wreck diving specialty. But you learn about how to approach a wreck, notes that you take, you know, so you have memories of it and not just pictures. You can say, okay, well, this was oriented this way, or the bow was pointing at 45 degrees or whatever. And then also buoyancy control, so that you don't, because obviously life grows on these wrecks when they've been down there long enough. So just like coral reefs, this is a man-made reef, basically. So you don't want to be banging up against, or have your gear banging up against the sea life there. This is awesome. Most of these intentionally sunk reefs are prepared in that they're cleaned up, and then they open up a number of areas. They'll get the old acetylene torches, and they'll cut away big openings so that your chances of getting stuck in a penetration dive are minimal. But it's still important to practice good buoyancy control and learn different finning techniques. You'll see, I think, in a few shots here, like there, just kind of a little glimpse of a very common finning technique for caves or any overhead environment like a wreck. It's called the frog kick. It's basically you're spreading your feet sideways and kicking in them together rather than the up and down motion, which creates a vertical vortex that can kick up silt, etc. But if you're kicking sideways, you're less likely to kick up silt. And we've actually demonstrated what that looks like, or we've shown what that looks like via another YouTube video several podcasts ago. We showed a website that did a very, very good job actually demonstrating what happens. I just really enjoy diving wrecks. Looks like he was clearing his mask. See, mask clearing is one of the basic skills that you learn in the course, and it's ever so important. I cannot stress enough how important it is to keep practicing that skill after you've got your certification. There are so many situations you can get into where you get water in your mask, intentionally or unintentionally, that you've got to be prepared how to clear it. Otherwise, you're down at 100 feet. You're not going to be screaming to the surface unless you want to be in the hospital or dead to clear your mask, to get water out of your nose or something like that. So you want to make sure that you've got those skills honed and practiced, so that when you go on dives, spectacular dives like this in Grand Cayman, you're not concerned with, you're aware of, but you're not concerned with, you're not consumed with the potential for not having a skill that you need. You're just relaxed and enjoying the dive. I mean, look how the diver there is just relaxed. Okay, this guy's doing the frog kick. Spectacular views. Awesome. We're okay. Neptune Divers probably provided some of the video or the actual dive operation for them. So yeah, that's Grand Cayman. That's where we're going this year. We're excited about that. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope that whets your appetite to go on these dives. You know, Scuba Bob has yet to do a saltwater dive, and we really need to get him at least out to the Texas Gulf Coast, because there is a lot of diving that goes on there, and it just doesn't compare with you do a saltwater dive in a tropical area, or especially in a top tropical area. You do a saltwater dive, and everything else pales in comparison. But I enjoy any kind of dive. Any dive I can do is time well spent for me. I just enjoy the whole being immersed. There's just something so peaceful about it, even when the visibility is bad. I can enjoy zero visibility diving, and it wouldn't bother me. Just being out there. When you do a night dive and you turn your lights off, it's zero visibility anyway. So it kind of helps you it helps prepare you. If you dive in daytime in low visibility, it helps you prepare for what you might be experiencing on a night dive. Knowing that you can surface and see everything fine. But yeah, night dives can be a little disconcerting, and we've got one scheduled for sure on this trip. We're going with a couple of friends of ours who one of them is a former student, I'm happy to say, and so this will be his first saltwater dive. And again, couldn't ask for a better place to do first saltwater dive. Just hopefully the weather will work with us as we go there. So I think we're running to the end of everything and moving to our Administrivia. So next Del Rio Dive Club meeting is 16 May 2013. Our Balmorhea State Park trips, we did have for May 17th through 19th, but we've heard back nothing from anyone on that. So that one may not happen at this point. We're a week away. June 14th through 16th, July 19th through the 21st, August 16th through the 18th. That's our anniversary. Tara and I will be celebrating our anniversary that weekend. And then we have basic open water scuba classes scheduled for May 23rd through the 26th, June 27th through the 30th, July 24th through the 28th, August 22nd through the 25th, and last but not least, September 26th through the 29th. You can keep in touch with us, follow our goings on, communicate with us on our Facebook page. Just go to Facebook/Del Rio Dive Club. Or you can send us messages to instant messages to Skype. Just look up Two Guys Who Dive. We're there. Or you can now visit us on our newly remodeled and newly relocated dive club website, delriodiveclub.com. And if Scuba Bob were here, you could send him an email to rsgarza821@yahoo.com or follow him on Twitter, rsgarza435. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at robertcfp, or you can also send me an email at robert.wade@setifox.net. So that pretty much clears the decks for episode number 66. We're really happy to be doing this podcast for you. Disappointed that Robert's not here. Hopefully, he really will be available for future podcasts. Looking to gradually keep upgrading our studio here as we go along, adding more capability. As we touched at the beginning at the intro, we are now in HD, so we're at the bottom of that HD scale, 720p, but it's still HD. If I can get a hold of a 1080p camera for our full shot, which is still only a 720. The other two cameras are full 1080p HD cameras. If I get one of those, then we'll be able to probably bump this up to full on HD. So if you go visit our YouTube page, please subscribe to our YouTube page, and you'll notice you can select now from our latest videos. I think starting with episode 64, you can now select the HD version to view it, and it looks great. I could not be happier with how it looks, how it sounds. So that brings us to the end of another fantabulous podcast. We love hearing from you. We love having you in our audience. We love doing the show, and hope to see you next week on another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive.